In this lesson, we're going to be talking about password attacks. Now, in other lessons, we've talked about methods of doing password cracking, and that's kind of at a technical level, and we're really talking about more tools there than anything else, and I'll talk a little bit about tools here, but we've already kind of talked about tools in other places. What I want to talk about is the methods of doing password attacks, some of which may not be technical in nature. One tool that we didn't talk about elsewhere is LoftCrack, and LoftCrack is old, but it's also capable of doing password cracking, and they say it does password auditing and recovery. But what it's really doing, similar to John, is it's doing sort of a brute force attack where it's checking lots of different passwords against the passwords that you've got. So one password attack is just a brute force attack. And again, we've kind of gone over that a little bit. You have a word list and you go through and you check all of the entries in the word list and see if you can get the password to work, at which point you know you've got the password if it works. So we've got a brute force attack. Another type of attack is similar in that it's also a brute force attack. It just takes a lot longer, where you're randomly checking or systematically checking all of the different combinations and possibilities for each character position. Now, the problem you've got there is if you don't know how long a particular password is, then you don't know how many positions you've got, and so you've got to check multiple lengths. So let's say I'm going to check A0000 and then B0000, and you've just got to keep going through all of the potential characters in each position of, let's say, a 5-character password, a 6-character password, a 7-character password, an 8-character password. That's a different type of brute forcing. As you can imagine, it takes a really, really long time. Another type of attack is rainbow tables. Now, we've talked a little bit about rainbow tables in other lessons, and a rainbow table is also a brute force attack in that you are checking against known words. It's just you're doing all of the work for the brute force up front a little bit and then indexing the information so you can look it up again quickly. So what a rainbow table is just a table of information where you've got the password and the hashed version of the password so that you can look up the hash that you've got for the password you're trying to check against the hash in the table. In reverse, you can look up the password that's associated with that. Now, a couple of different types of attacks that you can use is looking for written passwords, and this is kind of a clean desk policy, where often people will write passwords down. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but it certainly happens particularly in organizations where they have really strong password policies. Like if they've got to change their password once a month, it's got to be 9 characters, it's got to have an uppercase and a lowercase letter, it's got to have at least 1 digit, or it's got to have 1 special character. If it's got to meet all of those criteria, the human brain just isn't generally capable of storing that sort of information for easy retrieval and that often. So if they're changing their password on a regular basis and they've got some strong complexity rules, then they're probably going to be writing it down somewhere. So you can look down for written passwords if you've got physical access to the place where the people work. Another tactic that you can use is using mnemonic devices. So if I've got a word like elite, I might do some transposition in order to make it look like elite without actually spelling elite. So I could have, and that would sort of look like elite. I could also do something like, so I could use that for password, where you're doing transpositions of letters and numbers. So if you remember that 4 kind of looks like an A and 5 kind of looks like an S, and you're just transposing those numbers in for the letters in the word, I can remember that my password is in fact password, it's just got some numbers in it. You can also do things like checking for special characters between syllables, so maybe I'm doing something like this, and that's my password. Or if I want to do the same thing as above, where I'm doing the letter number transposition and also using a special character, I could do something like this as well, substituting the 0 for the O in password, and I've just put a % between the two syllables in that word. So there's a number of different types of password attacks that you may be able to accomplish. As I said, some of them are technical, some of them are really not technical. Some of it just has to do with understanding how people operate and the capabilities that they have in terms of the information that they can store easily in their brains.